Good, good morning. I can never tell if it's actually started or not. But good morning. My name is Sarah Jacobson, and I'm a startup coach, and I'm so glad to have you here with me this morning, whether you're watching now or in the future. I'm glad that you're here. I love helping people get started in their business by avoiding the mistakes that I've made and using good principles with good mindset, good business knowledge, and also the systems you didn't know you needed to start a business that you love, that can be sustainable over the long haul, that has impact and income, because you need both to have a business. So, if you've missed any of my previous videos, you can check them out in my Facebook group under the guide section. A great place to start is with my high five approach to business. That's a good overview of how I encourage you to get started. So also I wanted to let you know a big announcement that at the end of July, I'll be launching my new program called the 90-Day Knockout, where I'll be going into detail about all of the stuff that I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to go way more into depth about how you do that, including with a guide, as well as going into depth into my high five approach. And so I'll drop a link below if you're interested in signing up and just getting on the wait list. There's no commitment, but you'll be the first one to hear about it when it launches and get the best price and all of the best bonuses. So I'll drop that link for the 90-Day Knockout below. So it's almost the end of June, which is really hard to believe. I can't believe that we are almost halfway through 2022. That realization kind of hit me this week, that that's where we are, and now is a great time to look back where you started in January and to look ahead to where you want to be at the end of the year. And the way that I encourage you to do that is to start with where you are right now. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself. And you can write these down if you want, and you can come back and watch the video if you want to review them. But here are some great questions to review. Where am I right now? Are you where you want to be in your business? Are you hitting your targets? Are you generating the revenue that you had hoped for at this point in the year? Are you creating the impact that you want to at this point in your business? Are you still facing the same roadblocks that you were back in January? So those are some great questions to ask yourself as you're doing this kind of mid-year check-in. If you answered no to any of those questions, then you're in the right place this morning, because I want you to learn how to move forward and be able to answer those as a yes. And I want to also offer you a word of encouragement. If you answered no to any of those questions, or maybe all of them, because you really aren't where you want to be, this isn't a reflection tool to feel badly about yourself or to feel guilty or to be embarrassed or frustrated. This is a time to reflect and to say yes or no and face the reality of the situation without guilt. I'm a big believer that progress starts with assessing where I am right now. And we have to get really, really good at that as a business owner, of doing it objectively and not emotionally. So the answers to those questions are yes or no. Am I where I want to be in my business, or am I not? And then let's move forward and make a plan so that you can be where you want to be by the end of 2022. You can't get where you want to go if you don't know where you are right now. Now, let's say you answered yes to all of those questions. You are where you want to be. You're creating the revenue, the impact, you're overcoming roadblocks. That's awesome. And I want to offer a word of encouragement to you. It's time to celebrate. All too often in life and in our business, we blow past these small successes along the way and we don't celebrate them. And we miss an opportunity to confirm and affirm our brain. Our brain, if you've listened to any of my other videos, can be our own worst enemy. And so when we have these successes and we're actually doing what we want to do in our business and generating income and having impact, we need to celebrate that so that our brain learns, oh, this is good. I want to do this again. And so I really, really want to encourage you that you don't underestimate the value of celebrating. They don't have to be big. They might be, depending on how well you're doing in your business. But I want you to celebrate it, brag about it, post about it. You can post in the group on the Celebration Fridays. You can create your own post and celebrate. I'd love to celebrate with you if that's true. A family favorite for us is we go out for ice cream. So whatever you do, celebrate it. Take a moment to say, I am where I want to be, before you just plow ahead and move on. So either way, this ability to identify where you are right now, as I said, is a business skill that you need. Businesses fail, and people do too, because they aren't willing to accept the reality of their situation right now. It's not about beating yourself up. It's just about saying, I am where I want to be, or I'm not. And developing this practice is going to set you up for success for where you're headed in your business. I like to think in 90-day chunks. It's a good amount of time, but it's not so long that it feels like forever and my brain starts losing focus and I start losing interest. Some people call these quarters. You'll hear businesses talk about quarter one, quarter two, we're about to go into quarter three. I personally like to think in 90 days because that's an amount of time that makes sense to me in my mind. It gives me a specific set of time to focus on. And it might not be exactly 90 days. Sometimes it might end up being 89 days or 92 days. I tend to go by the first day of the month and the last day of the month, however long that month might be. But I just call it 90 days as a nice round number. So now we know where we are because we've done a little reflecting, we've answered those questions. We can take the next step, which is, where do I want to be in the next 90 days? So right now, where do I want to be on September 30th? That's 90 days from now. July, August, September, 30 days in each month-ish, gets us to the end of September. Think ahead. School will have started if you have children. The weather should be turning cooler, and you're 3 months at that point before the end of 2022. Where do you want to be? So you have two 90-day chunks left for 2022. So where do you want to be? Do you want to have a certain number of followers on social media? Do you want to have a certain number of people on your email list? Do you want to have a solid routine for your business? I know one of my clients is really working hard this summer to do the work so that when school starts this fall, she has a very set schedule on what she's going to work on when she gets that kind of routine back. Do you want to have a completed course or a completed catalog of things to offer to your clients? Do you want to have clarity about who you serve or a certain amount of revenue? Or do you want to have a certain number of speaking gigs booked if you're a public speaker? What are 1 to 2 goals that you'd like to have accomplished by then? And it's okay to dream big. This is the time to let your brain kind of wander on that. Don't hold yourself back. And when you know what that goal is, I want you to hold on to that for just a minute. A lot of times the first thing that comes to your mind is what you should actually be doing. So don't be afraid if your brain is like, oh yeah, we should be doing this. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Or if I can do that. Hold on to that thought. We're going to come back to that because I want to talk for just a minute about a big lie that we tell ourselves. We often tell ourselves things like, I only have 10 minutes, or I only have an hour, or I only have a couple of months. It's only 90 days. What can I actually get done in 90 days? And so we put off what we should be doing because we don't think we have enough time. We never get started because we believe that big lie. So we fill our time that we do have, whether it's 10 minutes or 1 hour or a couple of months, we fill it with other things like scrolling on social media or just simply wasting time. It could also be good things like reading a book. I love to read, but there are times I know I'm reading a book because I'm avoiding the work that I should be doing. So then reading the book isn't necessarily a good thing. So we look back and we're like, wow, I really spent a lot of time on social media or wasting time, and I didn't actually make any progress on what I wanted to be doing, which was building my business. So we need to overcome this lie. And I want to tell you a few things about 90 days because I hear it all the time. I teach a life design class at church and I hear it all the time. Like 90 days isn't really that much time. And I would argue that it actually is a lot longer time than you think, and you can make a huge impact. Here are a couple of examples. There's an architectural firm that will build you an environmentally friendly 1,300 square foot home in 90 days. That's pretty amazing to go from no home to having a home in 90 days. Boot camp for a Marine will make you into a Marine in just under 90 days. That's pretty significant. Um, Another one is a human baby in utero is fully formed and can open and close its hands and mouth by 90 days after conception. That's also pretty amazing to me. And then I'm not a huge baseball fan, but here's another thing that happened in 90 days. If you're a baseball fan, on July 8th, 1914, the Boston Braves Baseball Club had a record of 29-40, which was dead last in the National League. Over the next 90 days following that, they won a whopping 74% of their games. I would love to know what happened that they were all of a sudden able to flip their record. And in the end, they won the league pennant and also the world championship in that same year. They went from dead last to winning in 90 days. So don't underestimate the value of 90 days and what you can do when you put your focus into that one big goal that we talked about a little bit ago. You start to build momentum. You create a sense of urgency when you only have 90 days to get that one big goal done. You can see a lot of amount that you can accomplish in 90 days when you focus on one big thing. You start to create in that 90 days the sense of urgency you often feel in December at the end of the year when it's like, I have so much stuff to do, but I only have a little bit of time to do. You get that sense of urgency all year long when you break your year into 90-day chunks. So what's next? We're overcoming that lie. We're not letting ourselves believe that lie of I only have 10 minutes, I only have an hour, I only have 90 days, because we know that we can get a lot of stuff done in those short periods of time when we stay really focused. So let's review where we are. You've done a reality check. Where am I right now? You've asked those questions I had at the beginning of where am I right now? You've looked at them objectively. You've answered them yes or no. There's no excuses. There's also no shame. It's just this is where I am right now. You started to think about where you want to be in the future. You've done a little bit of dreaming to think about where you want to be in 90 days, and we're setting that lie aside that we don't believe 90 days is long enough time. Now, the biggest part that we're going to do that people skip, they build their goal and they're like, great, I've got this goal, and then they think they're done with setting goals, and that's a big problem because you need to create a plan. How am I going to meet that goal? How am I going to get there? And we know that action brings clarity. You may not have a lot of clarity about that goal in the future. It may feel like Mount Everest and it is so fuzzy and foggy way out there in the distance. But we know that when we start to create a plan, action actually creates clarity. When you start heading out towards that goal, you're going to get more clear. I don't know exactly where Mount Everest is, but if I start heading towards Asia, I know I'm going to get a lot closer to that goal than if I were to just stay in Colorado. Without a plan, you're just going to be guessing at what you should be doing, and you will continue to live in this perpetual state of spinning your wheels. And when you sit down at your computer, you'll continue to wonder, what is the work that I should be doing right now? And you continue to waste time because you're constantly trying to figure out, what should I be doing? Well, when you have a plan and you have a goal, you eliminate that wasting time of what should I be doing because you know what you should be doing. You've already created your plan. The other thing that I see a lot of times, and I was right there with you, I have a whole binder right there off of the screen of freebies because I would get so distracted by all of the freebies, and there's a lot of people producing a lot of great content, and I would just be a freebie junkie and I would download all this stuff that I thought I needed, and I generated this whole resource binder that I've actually never used because it distracted me from what I really should be doing. So when you have a goal and you see these freebies and these courses and these webinars come up, you can say, nope, I don't need any of that stuff because it doesn't match the goal that I am working on right now. I might need that eventually later, but if it doesn't match the target that I'm working for right now, then it's a waste of time and it's a distraction. So here are the parts of your plan. And you may want to write these down. You're going to write, and you just need a scratch sheet of paper. You don't need anything fancy for this. Don't believe the lie that you need some cute journal. You really just need a scratch sheet of paper. You're going to write down your one big goal, that one that we dreamed about. Where do I want to be in 90 days? Then you're going to write down 3 or 4 smaller goals that you want to accomplish in the next 90 days that lead you to the big goal. And I'm going to break this down with some examples. Then you're going to write down 3 or 4 metrics that you'll use to measure how you're meeting each of those small goals, moving towards the big one. You're going to use a weekly tracker to develop to evaluate whether you're on track each week, because what you don't track, you can't manage. So we need to be tracking it. And then a weekly calendar to help you plan out your week, because you actually need to be planning your week. So let's say my goal was to get X number of people into my Facebook group in the next 90 days. This is a great goal for people at the beginning when you're starting your business. That's a big goal. That's my big one at the top. I want to get X number of people into my Facebook group. I know that that the more people I have in my group, the more successful I'll be able to market my products and to serve people. So that is a worthwhile big goal for me. So then I'm going to break it down into 3 or 4 smaller goals that lead me to that big one. So some of those sample goals might be, I'm going to post a certain number of times in Facebook groups, other Facebook groups, to generate leads. Or maybe I'm going to post on Instagram and interact with others. Maybe I'm going to DM people and invite them to my group and interact with them. Maybe I'm going to pay to run Facebook ads. Maybe I'm going to start posting on Pinterest. Maybe I'm going to work specifically on nurturing my email list. Those are all small goals that lead me to this big one at the top. And you want to focus on these 3 or 4 small goals, because you can't do it all. All those things I just listed are great ways to get people into your Facebook group, but you cannot do them all. So we're not going to try, because then you will just feel like a failure because you couldn't do it all. So we're going to set ourselves up for success, to tell our brains, yes, I really can do this, by picking only a couple of those things to do. And my suggestion always as a teacher is to pick one that's really easy, make it easy, and then pick one that's going to stretch you a little bit. Don't pick 4 that are going to be really hard and that are going to take a lot of work. If there's one of those small goals that's actually easy for you, like Facebook Lives are easy for me, I'm always going to do those, pick that. And then pick one that's going to be a stretch for you. And if you know the next 90 days are going to be super busy for you, don't pick something so complicated. Set yourself up for success. Look at your calendar and see what's coming up. Hey, it's summertime and I don't have a lot of time. Pick some things that are easy. Match your level of energy that you know you're going to have over the next 90 days with the goals that you pick. Be realistic. Then you're going to create metrics to make sure you're hitting your targets. That's a fancy way of saying, how am I going to measure that I'm making progress? This part helps you stay focused. There's a lot of times I want to skip this part, but it helps you stay focused. So for each of those 3 or 4 smaller goals that you've created, you're going to create 2 or 3 metrics. You don't have to be really precise with this. I typically pick a metric date of about 3 weeks in, 6 weeks in, and 9 weeks in, because 90 days is usually 12 weeks. So those are 3 times that I can check in and say, am I doing what I said I was going to do? Have I posted the number of times in Facebook groups that interacted with people that I said I was going to do? And I check in at that 3-week mark, 6-week mark, and 9-week mark. And so you'll want to write down how you're going to measure that and the results you want to get at each of those markers. Then you'll use a weekly tracker to check in on how you're doing. And this helps you go back to what is the reality of the situation? Am I doing this each week? And if you say no, that's okay. Regroup and make a plan for the next week. Don't beat yourself up. Be grounded in your results. Not what other people are doing, not what other people are telling you should do, but once you've set those goals, you're focused on those results for yourself, and you're only comparing yourself to who you were and what you were doing 3 weeks ago, not everybody else. Eliminate that. And then I use a weekly planner that lays out what I'm going to be doing each day, so that helps avoid my distractions. You don't need anything fancy to do this. I think we lie to ourselves and like, I'm going to go to Walmart or Target and buy a new planner. You don't need that. Just use some pieces of paper to get started. Figure out the process and the method that's going to work for you. But the point is, have it very clearly laid out so that you can follow it. And when you get distracted, because you will, go back to your plan. Go back to your goals. Wait, I got distracted. I was, signing up for these webinars over here and doing this stuff over here. I need to come back to my goals. And when you do this, success becomes inevitable because you are defining for yourself what success is. If I say my one big goal is getting X number of people into my Facebook group in the next 90 days, I've now defined for myself what success is. Everybody else may say success is something different, making a certain amount of money, something else that they measure success by. This is how I'm measuring success for myself so that I can make sure that it actually happens. I have a clear definition of it so I can stay focused. You stop looking at what everyone else is doing and you just get focused on you. Your success is measured by comparing yourself to where I was 90 days ago, not where everyone else is, because we know that comparison is the thief of joy, and we want to have fun and have joy in our business. We don't want it to always be a Debbie Downer. Your definition of success becomes about whether or not you completed this big 90-day goal. In that short period of time. Your definition stays really focused. It's not some far off definition of success that you're going to get to someday. You are creating success every 90 days. And again, like I talked about at the beginning, that helps train your brain that this is good and I want to keep going on it. You build momentum. This is how you get the most out of your next 90 days, by recognizing the power of the short period of time, focusing on one goal, and then executing those small goals, those small tasks to get to that goal. You're not trying to do it all or do it like everyone else is doing. You are doing your plan to get to your goal. So you need to stop trying to create systems that might work for you, that are, guesswork, and just use this one to help you get started. Stay focused on the one thing that you're working on right now. Ignore the freebies, ignore the sales, ignore the webinars that don't serve you, and just work on this one big goal. So I hope that's really helpful for you today. When I was able to shift from trying to do all of these things to just really focusing on one goal at a time, I've seen so much more momentum in my business. I enjoy showing up in my business. I enjoy seeing the results of the fruits of my labor instead of it being this like ambiguous thing out there. And so I really hope that that's helpful for you. I also want to take a minute to share with you that I do have a new course coming out. I mentioned it at the beginning. It's coming out at the end of July, and it's called the 90-Day Knockout. And in this course, I go much more in depth into this 90-day planning system that I call a 90-day sprint. It's not a marathon. It's actually just a sprint that you do this work. And I will talk a lot about that, as well as the mindset that you need to help you create a business, and also the knowledge that you need to create a business. There is a lot of information that you need, and you can stop guessing about where to get it from, and I'll just give it to you in that course. And you're going to do all of that in 90 days. So if you'd like to get on the wait list for that, there's no commitment. It's just a wait list. I'll drop the link below. And then just a reminder, next week is the 4th of July. I hope you're doing something fun to celebrate. So I won't have a Facebook Live next week, but I will have one coming up in July, getting ready for that course that I'm super excited to share with you. So if you have any other questions about this, please feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I would love to be able to answer them for you. And I hope you have a great Monday. Thanks for joining me.